Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Medlock Post. And this is Richard G. Medlock, your host. Happy host. Happy to be here. This is where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. Today's is July 20th, 2022. And today's episode is, hey folks, what's happening? Yes, hey folks, what's happening? The views and opinions on the Medlock Post radio show are the views and opinions of the host. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Spreaker.com, its corporations, affiliates, or any other podcast streaming services. That's our disclaimer. We put that in there because sometimes what we might say could be controversial. It's controversial because people disagree with what we're saying. So we don't want them going after anybody else. Those are my thoughts, my opinions, my beliefs, my feelings. So here we are, folks. This is, again, July 20th. We're happy to be here. And I got another show today. It's a different show than I had put together by the end of business yesterday. Totally different show. Some news happened last night, some news this morning, and this morning I put together a new program. And you will learn from it. You'll be educated. And I'll be educated. And we'll get to learn things. And how does this affect us? What's going on in the news? What's the government continuing to do to us? Not for us, but what's the government doing to us? I want to thank my wife. Yesterday for my birthday, she gave me a new microphone and headset to do the radio show. And I ran some sound tests with it last night. And I always run a sound test prior to the show before I do the actual recording. And so far, it looks like everything is working okay. If all of a sudden we go to music, then I might have to be making some adjustments. I hope that doesn't happen. But if all of a sudden you hear music and I get cut off in the middle of what I'm saying, then you will know that there's a technical problem, and hopefully I don't have to completely start over the show. All right. I want to start with one quote. I only have one quote to start the program today, folks. And it's kind of interesting because it goes into what we've been talking about in the past, some things we'll talk about today, and some things we'll talk about in the and if there was a little gap, I think my microphone was being funny. So here's her quote. Once a people or a government decides to normalize one form of lawbreaking, other forms of lawlessness will follow until finally the rule of law itself is in profound jeopardy. Unquote. Now, ladies and gentlemen, she hits the nail on the head. The rule of law today is in profound jeopardy. It is, folks. This has gone back for decades. When evil, we just, okay, we can put up with that, and then all of a sudden evil is legalized, and then it becomes a norm, and then you stop talking about it. And there's examples and examples of that. And also, by taking rights away, things, the rule of law is being affected. We are in a day of ruler's law. My episodes 2 and 3, going back to middle of June, I discussed the rule of law versus ruler's law. It's 2 episodes. It is well worth your time to go listen to them to understand what we're talking about. All right, so I want to follow up. One of the things which made a change is follow up on 2 things that are really weren't able to get into. One of them that didn't have a lot of information yesterday because the news had just come out, and the other was we were talking about in episode 24 central banks, Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, and how they control economies. The boom and bust cycle. I quoted Jefferson and Washington and others that were against banking. That the Constitution puts the responsibility of monetary control and printing money on the Congress. But the central banks, the Congress gave that over to the central banks, and it's been downhill ever since. And that's what we talked about yesterday. It's a good listen. And I talked about the role of the central banks and how they're controlling everything. But BRICS is a central bank. It's BRICS, is all uppercase. It is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Wow. All right, those are some powerful countries. And their GDPs are not quite up to what the Western countries are, Europe and the United States and Canada and so forth. But it's pretty good production out there. And they have their own banking system, central bank. While the G7 was meeting in Germany a couple of weeks ago, BRICS held their 14th summit in China. Now they're 16 years old. So they had this summit. Folks, their summit declaration is pretty interesting, and we're not going to go over the whole thing because there are 74 declarations. 74. Let me just read the first couple. Number 1, we the leaders of the Federal Republic of Brazil, the Russian Federation, the Republic of India, the People's Republic of China, and the Republic of South Africa held the 14th BRICS Summit under the theme Foster High-Quality BRICS Partnership. Usher in a new era of global development. This was 23rd, 24th June of this year. Now, Argentina and Iran, yes, Iran, have applied to join BRICS. That's kind of a funny mix there. So they're looking to gain new partners. Number 2, we recall that in the past 16 years, upholding the BRICS spirit featuring mutual respect and understanding, equality, solidarity, openness, inclusiveness, and consensus, BRICS countries have strengthened mutual trust, deepened intra-BRICS mutually beneficial cooperation, and closer people-to-people exchanges, which has led to a series of significant outcomes. We reiterate the importance of further enhancing BRICS solidarity and cooperation based on our common interests and key priorities to further strengthen our strategic partnership. They make themselves sound pretty important, don't they? Well, they really are. They really are. And I have lost my other sheet. But they started to make some demands on the UN. I'm sorry, I lost that other sheet. But that's okay. They wanted some demands from the UN. They want recognition. Now think back 16 years. That was 2000 and this is 12, so 2006, right? Yeah, 2006. Under BRICS really kicked up. And he helped empower BRICS, the central bank of China, Russia, India, and South Africa, and Russia, and Brazil. So China and BRICS and Russia have a plan to weaken the US dollar. China and Russia and some other players in there. See, when you buy oil in the world, you do it with US dollars. They want to stop that. This is again another step into digital currency. So that's what's happening there. And sounds like we've got a little commercial break coming up, and we will do that right now, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. This is the Medlock Post radio show, and this is your host, Richard G. Medlock. Okay, BRICS is a threat to the national or the international economy. Just want you to understand that. All right, let's follow up with the chip maker bill that Chuck Schumer was pushing. Yesterday it was a $52 billion bill. Now $54 billion bill. It passed the Senate committee last night on a procedural vote, or passed the Senate, under a procedural vote to take it to the floor to be voted on to move forward. 64 to 34, it passed. So you had 14 GOP socialists voting for more spending, more ways to control an industry, and these GOP socialists helped the Democratic socialists get this bill passed. And they will vote for it, and probably more GOP socialists when it comes to the floor in the next couple of days. Then it will go to the House, and the Democrats, of course, there will pass the bill. So it's a $54 billion subsidy bill for the U.S. semiconductor companies. Plus, yeah, there's more, came out this morning. It's interesting. They voted on the bill, and they only had an outline. They didn't even know what was in the bill. Isn't that crazy? How Congress said, this sounds really good. Let's do $54 billion in subsidies. So then they do a procedural vote, and then they find out, look at all this other stuff in there. There's a 4-year 25% tax credit to encourage companies to build plants in the United States. Now, one article said that's worth $24 billion. The Wall Street Journal reports it's worth $76 billion. So now you have $140 billion of taxpayers' money going to the semiconductor industry. And what happens when the government gets their hooks in you, when they subsidize you, they own you. They own you. Isn't and GOP socialists voted for this thing. Tax and spend mentality. The United States government does not have $40 billion to give away. Oh, but it's like I said yesterday, it's all just digitally passed along. Federal Reserve creates all this money digitally, sends it to the Treasury. Treasury sends it out to the semiconductor industry. Versus incentivizing these companies to spend their own money, get all the regulations off of this. Yesterday I said, they stood there and said, we're giving them subsidies so they can help them with the regulations we've put on them. Then take the regulations off and don't give them any money and let them have a free hand to do what they do. Again, folks, they don't have materials in the United States to move forward. They can go build plants, but they don't have materials. They're all overseas. China's not selling them to us anymore. Materials are chips. And even and other people we get them from. All right. Catch you up on what's going on here. It's just, it's crazy, folks. The House of Representatives, maybe we should call them the House of Non-Representatives. They certainly don't represent the majority of Americans' interest. They passed a bill yesterday, a bill aimed at enshrining marriage equality into federal law. They're trying to codify same-sex marriage. Remember, after the Roe versus Wade, Clarence Thomas made a comment that same-sex marriage should be reconsidered, protecting it. Well, they're all going crazy. Now, they're having trouble codifying Roe versus Wade, codifying abortion. There's not support in the Senate for this. So now they're going after, well, let's at least protect same-sex marriage. So it passed with 47 House Republican Socialists voting for this bill. 47. Now remember, all 47 of those are up for re-election this fall. Now, I don't know how, I don't have the names yet. But, oh, this sounds great. Okay, this is wonderful. Let's make this federal law. And so all these same-sex couples can stay same-sex couples. And I know you go, Richard, are you biased? Are you racist? Are you homophobic? No, I'm not. But it shouldn't be federal law. We go back and look at the Judeo-Christian foundings, the values that founded this country, and same-sex marriage was not included in that. Again, this goes back to Heather McDonald's quote, once you normalize one form of law-breaking, other forms of lawlessness will follow until the rule of law itself is in profound jeopardy. Now, I know this is controversial to a lot of you, and I know that. And you've probably turned me off already, and that's fine. But they passed this bill. I mean, they spelled it out. You know, the Social Security, life insurance, health benefit, da-da-da-da-da. Just like if you were... the Supreme Court ruled on that years ago and said, okay, we'll recognize same-sex marriage. Now, not all states do. I don't know, they might by now, I don't know. But there was a lot of controversy within churches. The Methodist, Episcopalian, Presbyterian, Baptist, there was a lot of controversy, and there were some splits. Groups split off from all of these churches I just named and broke away from the main group because the main group, the original group, did not want to support same-sex, or they did, and then there's the group that says we don't want to support it. So what's interesting here, and this is the question that comes up, because a lot of ministers say I will not perform a same-sex marriage, and the court rules you don't have to, because if your religion says it's against your religion, you don't have to perform the marriage. And a lot of them are sticking to that. Under this law, I haven't seen a specific in there where it states that a religion has to perform these marriages. Now that would totally knock this bill down, because you cannot force a religion by the government to do something against their beliefs. First Amendment. And that has been held up over and over and over by the Supreme Court. And some of that was held up because of Obamacare. They wanted to force Catholic schools and Catholic churches and so forth to provide contraceptives, and that's against the church's belief. And they won that in court. Remember the nuns? So 47 House Republican Socialists backed this bill. Keep this crazy road. And somewhere it's got to stop. This road of lawlessness, as Heather MacDonald put it. All right, what's coming up next? Well, it sounds like we're going to go to a break coming up here next. So hold on. We will be right back after these messages. And we did return, folks. This is the Medlock Post Radio Show, and this is your host, Richard G. Medlock. Moving on to, hey folks, what's happening? You remember the 2020 election? There's still a controversy about that. And sadly to say, Trump is still stirring it up. And that breaks my heart. Let's move on, folks. Yeah, we want to look at how to stop that from happening again, and some states are doing that. Remember, states make the laws concerning elections in their states, whether it's a federal election or local election. The states makes the law. That's in the Constitution. So there's a lot of things going on here, a lot of controversy, and Trump just needs to bite the bullet and move on. Seriously, Mr. Trump, please. We're tired of hearing about how, these states are going to decertify and I'm going to be president in 3 weeks. He's not saying that, but some of his people are. Well, folks, there's nothing in the Constitution to handle this matter. Nothing. Now, a state can decertify it, but the House of Representatives would have to go back and accept that decertification. It's too complicated. Let's move on. And I think that's one thing that's hurting Donald Trump. But anyway, there's at least a dozen GOP electors. They're not all from Georgia. They're from different places. That they attempted to falsely certify Trump. Well, number one, that's a false statement. They just wanted to challenge that election in Georgia. And they wanted the governor and the attorney general to do a recount, to look at the fraud that took place. And that fraud has been proven, but the state's doing nothing about it. You see? But the ones that called for that, including Donald Trump, he's not under investigation there. They're under criminal investigation in Georgia for interfering with a federal election, or whatever it is. So let's go out there and let's punish our enemies. Let's punish our enemies. Folks, let's look at how we can prevent it from happening again. It's happened, folks. It's like the Titanic sank. Let's get over it. Let's just keep moving on. I'm tired of hearing about it. I know you are. Back to the House of Representatives or non-representatives. And this seems to be a series. I think the GOP is doing this on purpose to bring this up during the elections this fall on these Democrats. Because yesterday, House Democrats blocked a resolution to condemn violence against churches and pregnancy centers. Now, Elizabeth Warren is out there wanting all these pregnancy centers shut down because they don't do abortions. They're to help women with their pregnancy, help them get the vitamins and other medicines they need, support, go through adoptions, all sorts of things, but no abortions. So the Democrats again went on record blocking a resolution condemning violence against churches, especially Catholic churches. They've been attacked and demonstrated against, and been marked up, graffiti and all that stuff, and these pregnancy centers. A couple of them have been set on fire. They also blocked a bill the other day to increase penalties for sex traffickers. I mean, that's a no-brainer, folks. Let's increase penalty. Put them in jail for life. Now, I said, let's hang them in the public square. And because it's just an abomination of what they do to people. But anyway, and they've blocked other things. They will not condemn what's happening to the Supreme Court justices and the people protesting in their homes, threatening to be killed, run out of restaurants, which all of that is against federal law. And the Department of Justice, the FBI, nobody is doing anything to arrest these people and put them in jail. It's against federal law what they're doing. Lawlessness. Profound jeopardy is what we're looking at to the rule of law. Now, if this were to happen to a liberal justice, Sotomayor, Kagan, any of those, I mean, they'd be arrested in a heartbeat and put in jail 20 years, lock them up, just like they did with the January 6th people for walking through a door, because the Capitol Police opened the door and invited them in. This whole thing is a sham, and you know it and I know it. So the Democratic Socialists are demonstrating by their votes, by their blocking resolutions, by ignoring sex traffickers, and they do that on the southern border. They ignore everything down there anyway. The Democratic Socialists are the party of darkness, folks. The party of darkness. And I'm standing by that statement because that's who they're showing they are. They will lie, cheat, steal, do whatever they can to keep power and get control of you and I. And I'm standing by that statement. I'm not moving from it. They're showing that's who they are. They're falling, hopefully, into a trap that the GOP is setting. Oh, let's put these bills and resolutions out there and have the Democrats go on record voting against common sense, voting against the rule of law. Put them on record. And they're now on record. It's public record. And how can they stand there in a debate and say, well, yeah, I voted against it. Well, why'd you vote against it? Well, it was nothing to do. We just want to be sane. You know, we don't want to hurt anybody, etc., etc. That's what we're looking at. The other thing that's going on in the House of Representatives is the Democratic Socialists are presenting a bill to add 4 seats to the Supreme Court. Court packing. They're losing, folks. They know they're losing. They're in total panic mode. What do you think AOC and Omar Ilhan and 17 other ladies from the House of Representatives, Democratic Socialists, went out and protested in front of the Supreme Court yesterday when nobody's there, and faked this being arrested garbage, walking around with their hands, holding their hands behind their back like they have handcuffs on, and AOC's walking with this smirk on her face, policeman's holding her arm up at the forearm or at the upper arm, and walking along, she's got this smirk, and then all of a sudden she raises her hand and waves to the people, and then puts her hand back down. Oh, whoops, I'm supposed to be in handcuffs. But we got pictures that they are not in handcuffs. Again, this is who they are. This is nothing but a show yesterday. They're losing. They're panicking. Oh, feel sorry for us, please. There's no feel sorry here, folks. But here the House, I know I'm on a roll here. The House Democratic Socialists want to pass a bill in the House to add 4 seats to the Supreme Court so they can control the Supreme Court. They have 3 to 4 votes in the Senate. If they add 4, they've at least got a minimum of 7, which would overcome the 6. Actually, they have 4 because Alito just resigned, and he kind of leaned toward the liberal side somewhat, but he was a good judge. And in these rulings, he ruled all in favor of the Supreme Court. Well, he's gone now, and this Brown Jackson is sitting there, who is as liberal as you can get. So if we put 4 more judges in there, if Biden can put 4 more judges like Brown Jackson in there, not only is the court lost, America is lost. They'll start making rulings without lawsuits in front of them. They'll have people do phony things just to get things in front of them so they can rule against them. So they can finish tearing down the Constitution. This is their goal. Big goal. And this is why I know a lot of you say I don't like to watch the news because it's so upsetting. Well, it is upsetting, but you need to know what's going on so you know how to. All right, welcome back. This is the Medlock Post Radio Show, and this is your host, Richard G. Medlock. Wow, so much to talk about. Starbucks, your favorite coffee place, right? I don't drink coffee, so the only times I go there is to buy some of their lemon cake and a couple of other pastries that are really, really good. And they also have, I guess they still have it, is a hot white chocolate drink, kind of a hot chocolate, but it's white chocolate. And I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you've never had it, you need to have it. It's really good. My daughter is a teacher, so her parents are always giving her gift cards. And she gets a lot of Starbucks cards, so that's why we go. We're not putting our money out. But anyway, you've seen the news the last few days. It originally came out Starbucks is going to close their stores in 16 stores in liberal-run cities: Portland, Washington, Los Angeles, Seattle, and some other places. Liberal-run cities. And why were they closing the stores? Because crime had become so bad in those neighborhoods that the employees were afraid to come to work. Drug dealers would come into the store and set up to sell drugs. It was dangerous. Customers stopped coming in. And the CEO says the only thing we can do is close the stores. And they did. And they're going to close 4 more stores. And he came out yesterday and he said there are many more closings to come. Now, folks, this is anti-American. Not him closing the stores. He's trying to protect his assets. Now, he's got property there. It could be lease, or it could be he owns the property, because a lot of them are freestanding. At least they are in our area. But he could be in a center where he's rented the space and his leases are up or whatever. And now he's going to lose money selling his properties because of the crime and the drugs that are in the area. Nobody else wants to go in. So if Starbucks is closing down in those areas, are other businesses going to close down? Probably so. This is what happens when you let lawlessness run amok. When you defund your police departments and let crime go rampant. When you have local judges that criminals are brought into them that were caught in the act, and judges throw out the charges. And the police are standing there dumbfounded. What do you mean? We caught him. We have video of him. No, the poor guy, he's a minority, lives in poverty, That stuff, the stores owed it to him, da 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 da. Let him go. This is what happens when you let the rule of law slide. This is happening in Chicago. Crime is way up. Shootings are way up. It's rampant in Chicago. The police force is down like 30-40%. They've cut their funding, a lot of it. And you know what policemen in Chicago are doing now? They're not even responding to calls. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because nothing happens to these criminals. Nothing happens to them. They just get sent back out in the street. The city of New York has a no bail policy. You can kill somebody, go in front of the judge, and they let you go. Well, show up for court. They've put up no money, no bail, no nothing. We'll see you for court. Yeah, right. And then in some cases, they've gone out in 2 or 3 days, they kill somebody else. It's run amok, folks. Now, I know I'm making things sound really bad today. And it's not as bad as you think. It's just in certain areas. But these liberal-run cities that have decided to just forget about the law, let the criminals do what they want to do. Our police are pigs and animals. They're not respected because we made them unrespected. Obama really added to that. And hey, let's go. This really picked up steam when George Floyd died in Minneapolis, the BLM, Antifa, and all that stuff. Anyway. All right, moving on. Because we got a few things to cover, but I think we'll might have to roll some of this stuff forward. Joe Biden. See, the Democratic Socialists are trying every way they can to overcome the ruling by the Supreme Court on Roe versus Wade. They're trying everything they can. So there are people in the administration that want Joe Biden to make a declaration to allow nationwide access to abortion pills. Now, states that have laws against abortion ban the abortion pills too. Why? That's supposed to be like the day after. They're afraid people are going to take it 3 months after and kill the baby. So they're looking at that. They're encouraging him, and they have been encouraging him, to declare a public health emergency. Now, the president has powers to do that under the Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act, PREP Act. But are we really under an emergency, a health emergency, by doing away with abortions? Ask the 1.5 million babies that get killed every year. That's what we're looking at. So they're trying to put pressure on all of this to just, I guess, reach out to a base, to the women that are totally convinced that they had a total right to murder another human. It's crazy. And they also want to limit the liability to drug makers of the abortion bill, and also limit the liability of the COVID-19 drug makers. I think they should be sued like crazy. Defense Production Act. You ever heard of this? It's normally used in wartime. It's under FEMA. FEMA exercises the Defense Production Act, DPA, to support the DPA authority and functions of the FEMA Administrator and the FEMA Associate Administrator for the Office of Policy and Program Analysis. The support focuses promoting effective use of DPA authorities by FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Association, and other DHS, Department of Health Services components, and providing coordination and guidance for the DPA plans and programs of federal departments and agencies. Well, again, the Democratic Socialists are pushing Joe Biden to issue a Defense Production Act emergency for the government to force industries to expand production capacity and supply needed for national defense purposes. What does that boil down to, folks? It boils down to nationalization of businesses, government going in and running them. And nationalization is not really the word, because that's where the government goes in, runs everybody out, and puts the government people in there. But it's the socialization of businesses where the government tells you what to do. So you see, the DPA is used under emergency times, times of war, not to take over the country. And that's part of what that chipmaker bill is doing. And so these Democratic Socialists are trying to get Joe Biden to hurry up, get this done. We need to take over all this stuff. Watch for it, folks. Watch for it. And that's going to be another executive order. And these things will be taken to court. Probably get overturned. You didn't have authority. There was no emergency, etc. So the DPA, under Title VII, is provide antitrust protection for businesses to cooperate in planning and operations for national defense purposes, including Homeland Security. Well, the only Homeland Security we need right now is security from our government. All right, so it's break time again. We'll be right back. All right, we're back from our commercial breaks. And a few more things to go over here. Sunday, an armed wacko went into a mall in Indiana and started shooting. He killed 3 people and wounded a few others. Well, there was a good Samaritan in the mall who was concealed carry. He was armed. He rushed in. He got his girlfriend safe, hidden away, and then rushed in and shot the guy, killed him. The guy had a rifle and multiple magazines. He could have caused a lot of damage, but this good Samaritan went in, shot him dead. And he's a hero. However, gun control advocates have gone berserk. Why? This is against their grain. This takes their messaging away. They want the guy to go in there and shoot up 20, 30 people. They don't want some guy with a concealed carry weapon, which they're trying to take away, to go in and take the guy out. They're protesting the guy. They're upset he's being called a good Samaritan. Do you see the anger in these people? He saved lives, but they want to just hang him. Crazy. Federal agencies lay the groundwork to ignore the Supreme Court. Huh? What'd you say? Federal agencies, government agencies, supposedly under the rule of the United States Constitution, and people that have taken an oath to uphold the Constitution are laying groundwork to ignore whatever the Supreme Court does. Lawlessness. Now, Obama ignored it. Biden so far has ignored most of them. So why don't we just keep going forward? See, the Supreme Court has no way to enforce their rulings. That comes from the executive branch, the White House, the president. But they don't want to do that. So watch some of these things coming out of these agencies. And I just gave you the Defense Protection Act, the abortion pill thing, do a public health emergency, those types of things. This is what they're looking at, folks. All right. June home sales fell 5.4% from May to June. Prices set another record, folks. The median house in the United States of America cost $416,000, an increase of 13.4% year over year. Folks, my parents built our home in 1956 for $19,000. Now, I sold that home many years ago for over $100,000. Today, it'd probably sell for $175,000, $200,000. It's a nice brick home. Nice neighborhood, nice area, good schools. Might even sell for more than that, I don't know. This is insanity. But home sales fell 5.4%. Home building has dropped the most it has in 20 years. The most it has in 20 years. Well, actually 22 years. Back to 2000. Now, what was going on in 2000? We were under a recession in the Clinton administration. Now, the media would not report it as a recession. This is what happened. We were under recession. Inflation was up. George Bush wins the election. Went through the hanging Chad thing. Supreme Court ruled he was the winner. Okay. The next day, from that ruling, the media comes out, oh, we are in a recession. Bush put us in a recession. No, Clinton put us in a recession. Everybody knew it. But the next day, after Bush was announced as the winner, we were in a recession, and he caused it. He ain't in office yet. This is how they work. Home sales are down. Building starts are down. I hope you're patient with me today. I got on my soapbox today. Some of this stuff is just infuriating at times. because you can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to destroy America, and that infuriates me. But we've got to fight the good fight. We got to stand up and speak up, and that's how we do it. And that, folks, is a Medlock post for today. May God bless America.